So in this video, I am going to go over two tips for Springtrap. One being where and how to practice blind shots, and the other being the cars. The cars keep coming up in Discord, and I've had to show multiple people how to run the cars. So I'm going to do that. First, I am going to address a bug that affects Springtrap right now. In the past 2 or 3 days, I've gotten even more Springtrap mains in my Discord, and even friends of the Springtrap mains who main Springtrap are saying the same thing. There is a bug with his axe. Now, I'll explain it in detail. I'll go over it first because it's important for Springtrap mains to know that it's not a you problem. It's not a you have bad aim problem. It's there is a problem with his axe and the way it goes through the air. And it is a very subtle bug, but it is a very annoying bug. And about 98% of Springtrap mains that I know have encountered it. The ones who haven't encountered it seem to be the ones who don't play him all that often. Now, as a caveat, I'm going to say, as a P100 Springtrap main with over almost 500 hours on him, I do not recommend playing him right now. He has around 10 bugs. Not all of them break the game. One of them is very bad for Survivor. And overall, he is just not able to keep up with the spawn logic bug and gen speed at the same time, along with having all these other literal gameplay issues from his kit and the bugs, which is really, really upsetting when you came into the game for Springtrap. Now, I've been in the game since 2018, but ever since I came into the game, I've been wanting Springtrap, so this is very irritating and it's very upsetting at the same time. Now, unlike behavior, I'm probably going to be a lot more generous in how I depict the other side. If anyone remembers the stream where they showed the Skull Merchant being very evil because she had a slug, well... Okay, so the axe bug. The axe flight bug, let's call it that. So like I said, about 98% of Springtrap mains have found this. I've noticed it for probably about 2 months, where something about Springtrap hasn't felt right. And then the more Springtrap mains I talk to, they say the same thing, like there's something wrong. Like there's something off. And it's one of those bugs that's very subtle and you don't really notice it, but you can notice that something is wrong and then you can't put your fingers on exactly what it is that's wrong. So, I don't know, let's give him a beamer. I commissioned somebody in Discord to redo my avatar. Maybe I should have commissioned her to do this too. So, Survivor. Springtrap. Normally when you throw the axe, of course it has the arc. Not that exaggerated, but there is an arc. So, it arcs, it hits a Survivor. This is normal. Anyone who's played Springtrap for more than 5 minutes knows this is normal. Any Survivor who's gone against him knows this is normal. Now, here's the problem. It's red, let's do green. One of Springtrap's more advanced techniques, and again, You can do this by accident. For when you play controller, you almost have to do this quite a bit because sometimes there's like an input lag on console. So you have to do what's called flicking. So this is normal. This is your normal shot. When you flick, it's a little strange because at the last second, you want to shift where you're aiming. And you can do this on Deathslinger, or you can do this on Pyramid Head, which I just found out you could do it on Pyramid Head. It's that very last frame or two before you actually release the axe, you move where you're aiming. So Springtrap might be looking over here, which, if you know, he looks at where he's aiming. But last second, you flick this way. You still might be looking over here, but the axe travels this way. So what flicking does is it adjusts where the axe is going last second. Now, here's the bug. You try to do this, a regular shot, but for some reason, and the conclusion the Springtrap mains and I have come to is that it's almost like you're being forced to flick when you don't want to flick. So you're trying to do this shot, but instead it will force you to flick, and the axe will land over there somewhere. Making you miss the shot. Now, you can do this by accident, but when several P100 Springtraps are coming out and saying this is happening, I can't. And then I know I can be holding the camera steady, Springtrap steady, and the axe still flicks itself, or it shifts from where you wanted it to the side. It's a problem. Because now a lot of Springtraps thinking that they're bad at Springtrap when they're not. What's happening is, and again, this is one of the hardest things I've ever had to try to explain in DVD because it's so subtle. And it doesn't happen all the time. It'll happen in about 10% of shots you take. But it does happen. And it's really frustrating because if you've played Springtrap long enough, you know where you're aiming, you know where the axe is supposed to go. But then to see it veer off to the side when you didn't aim it over here, you aimed it over here. It is very frustrating. The big discussion is what is causing this, and nobody seems to really have an answer for it. There are some theories. So, one is lag. Now, I don't think it's lag, because when this happens to me, nobody in the lobby is lagging. I'm not lagging, survivors aren't lagging. Nobody should be lagging, so if nobody's lagging, I'm not lagging, survivors aren't lagging, there's no reason whatsoever that my axe should decide that it wants to take a 2-foot hike to the side. Now, something that might be more plausible is the latency. Because I noticed it a little more after these servers crashed a few weeks ago, that this has gotten a little worse. And I have noticed every once in a while, I don't know. This is so unnecessary. But I have noticed sometimes when this happens, either I or somebody in the lobby will get that little red bar of hate next to their name. Now, if you're wondering, that little red bar, that's not a lag warning, that's a latency issue with the server, meaning that person is having issues connecting to the server. Now, and because if you look at this when this little red bar is there, normally their ping is within like normal ranges. It's usually never like over 200. It might be like 135, and then the server might catch up and that bar disappears, and then you'll never see that bar again. One time, I had a Discord member with 2,000 ping, and he never got the red bar up there. The red bar is specifically for like server latency, and I do notice every once in a while. This is one of those things where you have to notice multiple things at once, and I have noticed that every once in a while, when this happens, at some point in the game, somebody got that little red bar. Now, is it connected, or is it connected, or is this just some like coincidence? I don't know. I'm not behavior, thank God. So now there's those two. Now, I don't know if this has any effect, because I remember at some point, I think Deathslinger had this same issue, or he had a very similar. I don't think it was the exact same, but he had a very similar one. And right now, the Huntress has a hit validation problem. That is the worst writing I think I've ever done on NWayCom. So, the Huntress hit validation, if you don't know, this has affected Deathslinger before too. It's affected Huntress. Maybe it's just Springtrap's turn. So, Huntress, you actually do hit them, and then the hit validation fails. So you should have hit them. In reality, what happens is the hit validation fails, and your axe like goes through them and lands over here somewhere. Huntress has had this problem before. Deathslinger has had this problem. I don't think Springtrap ever had the problem, but this might be his version of hit validation, because I know Huntress has hers right now. Again, Deathslinger had it, and this could be some kind of weird hit validation. I'm because the way it happens, I'm almost certain that it is a latency issue, but I'm not 100% sure, because this is one of those things you can't really test. You have to try to catch it during a game, record the game, and then see like if you can't piece together what is happening. But I have seen this in my video comments. I have seen this in Discord. I have heard it from a friend saying, hey, my friend main Springtrap and has had this happen. I think I've only had one person say I've never had this happen, and if I had to take a guess, it was because they don't play Springtrap as much as everybody else, so they haven't had the chance for this to pop up. But I do know this exists, and I'm not sure what's causing it. Like I said, if I had to take a guess, it's the latency between servers, but it could just be a straight up bug, because he has so many bugs right now involving his axe. It could very well be a bug, including apparently I need to make a video specifically over his bugs, but if you hold your axe up and then try to M1 as you bring it down, so you're like spamming buttons, the axe will get stuck in its upright position, and you'll walk around with your axe up while you can still M1, but you can't see the M1, but you can see the slashing effect of the M1. It is that's a special bug. It's just one like up on the huge list of bugs he's got. And behavior's really not doing anything about his bugs. They're just screwing around with his kit and giving nothing to anyone. It's a mess. As I said, it could also be people, doing it by accident, because the problem with this one is that flicking, a lot like Pyramid Head, it's very hard, and it's very, very sensitive on Springtrap. You have to do it at like the last one or two frames of right before you like release his axe. So the idea that so many people are doing this by accident doesn't really sit well with me. I do it all the time, because again, I'm on controller, and sometimes there's like an input lag, so I have to. But even when I'm holding the axe steady, Springtrap steady, as I said, and trying to like aim and not move, the axe will sometimes just go whoop on its own. So if you experience this, or you see this, or you think, oh, that should have hit, I guess I'm just bad. It's not you, it's something with his axe. Whether it's the servers or it's a bug, I don't know, but it's not you, it's Springtrap, unfortunately. Now with that said, I'm aware that like Lilith Omen already did this because somebody in the Discord told me. Lilith wasn't wrong. I think he may have overcomplicated it a little bit, but he's not wrong. The idea is if you want to shoot over something, have it in the middle of your screen. As you can see here, so I did test it. I did test it because I never thought about it. My brain just kind of mapped it, and I just knew by visual where it was going. I never really put like thought into why it worked. But he is right. If you want to do something like over the car hoods, you want the car to be in the middle of your screen. Now, the problem with this is outside of like... Well, actually, no, it works right here too. If you look behind the first car, there's a second car. So survivors, if they see you backing up to, say, get the car in the middle of your screen, they're going to take off running because they have like a huge distance on you. If they are behind the car, or if they're behind the second car in the back, you probably won't have room to back up enough to get it into the middle of your screen. But yes, it is correct that if you are in the middle, if the object is in the middle of your screen, then you can shoot over it. The other way to do it is to shoot straight up, but in this case, under that car, you couldn't do it because I did try it, and there's a tree branches are right above it, so it gets stuck in the tree. As I was trying to show them here, the best way to run cars is throw your axe down the length, so from the hood to the trunk, like you see here. Because it is a very natural shot, you don't really have to move the axe up or down very much, and the length of the car will give the axe enough time to actually fall and hit the survivor on the other side. So, if you have to make a choice between a horizontal or vertical, always do it down the length of the car. So I'll show you, in case anyone's like still kind of confused. So I'm gonna show you exactly what I mean. This is enlarged, so it does look a little wonky. So yes, if you're doing something like a car, you do want it in the middle of your screen. The problem is it doesn't always work on a lot of maps because there's a lot of clutter around the cars. In which case, now if you're chasing somebody and you're seeing they're going around the car, there's probably enough time for you to do it. But if they've made it to the car and they're already trying to loop you around it, it's going to be really difficult. Now, clutter, like I said in the back over here, if they're behind this one, there's a chance you can't back up enough to get this car into the center of your screen to shoot over it. So these shots over cars, over the hoods, or on this side, are much harder, and in my opinion, they're more unnecessary to try to do when, especially on this car, because you'll see in a minute, there's a vault over here, and there's a pallet over on this side because behavior. Of course. So they're going to try to loop you until that gets blocked off, and then they'll run over here to the pallet and then try to play the pallet. So ideally you want to stop them at the car. So if they're running this way and you see it and they're already on this side and you're still running, yes, you can try to take this with the car in the middle of your screen. But as I said, if they get over here, it's going to be a lot harder because you don't have the room to really you don't really have the room to back up if you're already over there. But these are, and I've talked again to the other Springtrap mates. Very few of them will ever attempt this one because it's just not worth the hassle of trying to position the object on your screen, and try to get this shot. It's a lot of trouble for something that can easily miss, especially if the survivor is hugging the car and ducking. Because you gotta remember the axe is still very heavy. And then if they duck and hug it, then that's when you have to shoot up. Oh, that's a horrible one. You have... Jesus Christ. You also have to, at this point, if they're hugging and hugging the car and it's close, you're gonna have to shoot up and over. And again, because of a lot of maps and behavior, especially right now with hitboxes for maps, because of they're anti-Skybilly, anti-Skywesker changes. There is a lot of crap above cars too. Lamp posts. Like, I've seen my axe get stuck in the air, like on nothing, because there's an invisible hitbox there. In this case, I did try it. I got stuck on the branches of. I got stuck on the branches of this tree over here. Or this tree. I couldn't tell which one the branches, because the branches kind of fuse into a mess up there. I've seen the axe get stuck on wires. I've seen it get stuck on nothing. Seen it got stuck on like the very last pixel of a leaf. So this isn't particularly, while it is correct, I would say it's probably the harder of the two shots to do. Opposed to this one, which again, the length is a very natural shot. And that is Jay over there. That Tori is Jay. Who is also one, who is a, she knows a P100 Springtrap main, and she is trying to main Springtrap. And I'm just showing, like, how much easier it is versus how much you have to move, and how difficult it is. And you can see, like, how much clutter there is around the car. So doing the horizontal shots over the middle they're rough. They can be rough. So the reason I have help wanted add-on is mostly so you guys can actually see the arc of the axe, and I don't have to draw really crappy lines in an art program to try to show you. But you can see I barely had to really raise the axe. Now, depending on the type of car, you might have to raise it a little bit. I kind of had to raise it a tiny bit because this hood's bigger than the other one. But you can kind of see how much of a hassle it is to try to shoot over the hood when you come up on the car, opposed to from hood to trunk, or the front to the trunk. So now for the place where you can practice blind shots at Springtrap. My favorite spot is RPD, because this spot will always spawn, and it's the exact same. No matter if it's east or west, and no matter what pallet spawn. This will always be the same. It's outside where the generator normally spawns, because sometimes the generator does spawn over there to the left by the door. Now, because me and Jay were talking about this, because there's a spawn logic bug, it affects everything that spawns into the game, including Springtrap's doors. I got a door on Pale Rose that was in the corner of the map looking at the outer wall. It was nowhere near a generator. It was nowhere near a loop. It was just a useless door out in the corner of a map. Which is why I say the pallet bug problem really isn't a pallet bug problem. It's a spawn logic problem where the entire spawn logic of DBD is screwed up. We did test it with Xenomorph and Sadako, and it's not as bad. For some reason, it seems to have really affected Springtrap's doors more than other killers. But in one of the times, because while we were trying to test this, the first 2 times we spawned in on this map, the door was up against this brick wall. It doesn't work as well if the door spawned up against the brick wall. In my almost 500 hours of Springtrap, I have never seen the door spawn there until recently. And it is kind of it is something to behold, because that was new for me. When the door doesn't spawn there, this is the perfect place to practice blind shots. It will teach you, it will give you that game sense of knowing how high to hold the axe, when to throw the axe, and not being able to see the survivor. Now, we were both very confused by this because neither of us had seen the door spawn there before. So, trying to get her into position to. So, step by step. This brick wall is so good because there's a choke point on both sides. I'll show you after this, but survivors will typically always run around the brick wall towards the right, like Jay is doing. And this is a very natural shot too, like going down from the hood to the trunk of the car. You don't have to really raise your axe that much. You can do it very fast. It's very clean, and you don't have to sit there and try to readjust Springtrap or the axe. You do want to throw it around the time you're at the bench if you're going this way. You'll learn. Like it's very simple to learn blind shots using this as a training tool. And since RPD is one of Behavior's favorite map rotations, you can probably get it quite a bit. The reason she went to the right is because of the way it's choked off. I thought I showed it, but there's a cinder block in the middle, hidden right behind the brick wall. The reason survivors will run to the right always is there's a cinder block behind the brick wall that is splitting the walkway. You can kind of see the tip of it over there with the red thing in front of it. So it creates kind of a natural choke point. No survivor who has over 100 hours in this game is going to go down that pathway and take a left, especially against a ranged killer. That would be incredibly stupid. It's a good way to get hit, so you kind of get hit either way. Coming back, so coming towards us, they will normally take the path where you see Jay standing. So to my right. They will rarely ever play this tiny loop to the left. It's a very weak loop. It's got a very weak palette. And against a ranged killer like Springtrap who can actually, aim down, it's very, very dangerous. So they will typically run the pathway that you can see there in front of me. So this shot works on both sides. There are a lot of places to learn angles and stuff from Springtrap, but some of them are more complicated than others, but this one in particular is very simple to do. It's very easy to do, and it's very easy to learn, like the game sense you'll have to have for Springtrap. Doing blind shots anyway. So I hope this helps. At the very least, I will be able to show this to people in Discord who have trouble with blind shots, because this is how I normally have to teach them to do blind shots, is to repeatedly do this shot. You could do it against bots, but bots have wall hacking, of course. But I think bots will still get hit if they path right. You can do it with friends, or you can just do it at normal games whenever you get RPD, because a lot of survivors will get choke point there. But it is a fantastic place to learn your blind shots and learn the game sense of where you have to be, where the axe has to be, and where the survivor has to be. Because it's kind of in your favor. So again, I hope this helps.